Okay, hey. So, going live with Blayne Sukut, a good friend of mine from the States, and I'm just going to invite him, make sure he's here, and we can start. We're going to be talking about the stories that we tell ourselves. And so, this is something actually I've been looking a lot at myself with. And, oh, he's here. Hold on.
How are you doing?
Good.
Can
How
you
are
hear
you
me?
going?
All right. I had to go to my phone because I was on the computer and
Oh, it might be because I'm on my phone and not on the computer. I'm on the Facebook app as opposed to Chrome, so.
okay.
Okay, I can see you, so that's all right. Oh, well, thank you
Anyway,
so much for joining me.
yeah, well, a few technical difficulties there, but hey, we made it happen.
That's right. Yeah, that's
It's
fine.
like we've had quite a few struggles just setting a time date because of the 18-hour time difference. Mm,
Yes.
and
Yeah,
then the
that
technical
was interesting.
difficulties
So
getting on.
it's Friday night for you there, isn't it? It's Saturday early afternoon here.
Yeah, it's Friday evening here for me. Yeah.
Oh, wow, that's crazy.
Yeah,
But
I
so
decided.
glad you can make it.
Yeah, no, I was glad to be here. I was glad you invited me, and I haven't really talked to you much in quite a while since London, huh?
No, that's a while ago now. So yeah, well, we can jump in, start, I don't know, chatting about anything really, but I had said, we had discussed talking about the stories that we tell ourselves. And
Yes.
in the intro, I was actually saying this is something I'm looking at in myself a fair bit recently. And it's not just negative stories, but anything that we tell ourselves. So it might be things that actually build us up, take us forward, or things that hold us back. And so one thing that I've had for a long time is a story that I tell myself that I'm not enough or that I won't make it because I'm not like that person or something like that. And so I've noticed that as a story that I tell myself, and that's one that I don't think helps me. But I'm sure if I really look, there are so many stories there that I could go, oh wow, that one that I tell myself unconsciously actually helps me so much. What are your thoughts on this?
Yeah. Well, it has to do with the programming that we were programmed with when we grew up,
Yeah.
and from our parents and maybe teachers and other people that we spent a lot of time with when we were young. And they weren't doing it to harm you or doing it on purpose.
Mm,
They were running the programming they got programmed with.
that's right.
And
Yeah.
so it's a so what a lot of people now are trying to end the cycle. Um, but you've probably heard the cliche. Sometimes you got to fake it till you make it, and that's where the self talk comes in,
Mm,
and that's where affirmations come in,
yeah.
and you consciously take control of the process of talking to yourself. You get up in the morning and do affirmations. You do them before you go to bed. You can do them in the daytime too.
Mm,
A good way is to memorize your affirmations, write them down, and tell yourself that you're good enough, that you're deserving, that you're worthy, and so on. Um, and of course, you don't believe it at first because you have that old programming in there that keeps saying, "No, you're not. You don't know
yeah.
anything. You don't know anything. Who do you think you are?" Does that sound
Yeah.
familiar?
Yes. That's right. Yeah, and I noticed that. Yeah, when I start doing things like that, what you're talking about and what you teach actually in your course, when you start to do that, uh, quite often you get that resistance of, oh, hold on, what do you mean you're amazing? What do you mean you can do whatever you want to do? And you get that resistance right there. But it's fake it till you make it. That's a really good point. and it
Yeah,
teaches.
and yeah, the temporal or carnal mind, I call it, or the monkey mind or whatever. It's just running programming, and all that programming is you living in the past.
Yeah.
Um, this
Yes.
this is what Dr. Joe Dispenza teaches.
Mm.
Um, Everything that's in there are memories that are coming up, and your brain is throwing those memories up. No, you're not that good at this, or you're not good at that, or you're not worthy of this, or you don't deserve to make, $1 million, or whatever it
Yeah.
is that or you're never going to be as good as so and so musician on the guitar or the drums or whatever it
Yeah.
is. Mhm. and,
Yeah,
and
that's a
so
good
you,
point that it's
yeah,
all in the past going with these
yeah.
programming. It's not in the present and it's not living in the future either.
Right. You have to come into the present and consciously take control of that and counter it. When
Yeah.
those thoughts come up, tell yourself, yes, I am, even though you may not believe it at first. It takes about 3 weeks for you to start seeing a change. Um,
Yeah.
and then you have to continue it. And in about, in a couple of months, well, in 90 days, it can make it permanent, but you still have to continue to do it. It's like, taking a bath. You got to do it daily to stay clean, to keep the dirt off.
Yes.
So it's the same thing. And surround yourself with positive influences also through reading and videos and quotes. One of the things that I do regularly is I post positive, uplifting quotes. And the reason I started doing that is because when I was depressed and in despair at one point, I got onto a website. In fact, it was the Joe Rogan site. You know who Joe Rogan is, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Uh, and he has a website on there, and there was a thread on that, the thread on the forum there that said, if you want to be motivated or uplifted or something to that effect, get in here now. And I was depressed at the time, and so I was just kind of, cruising the internet. Anyways, I started reading all the people had posted all kinds of positive quotes and stories and videos and things that had affected them in their life, and or that they just found uplifting. And I was reading through that, and for the first time in a while, I felt it's like, wow, I feel good. This stuff is good to read. So I read. I think I stayed up for like 3 hours into the night
Yeah.
reading that stuff, and it dawned on me. It's like I need to go here every day and read this stuff, and
Yeah.
and I knew, that you need to surround yourself with positive influences.
Yeah.
But so I started doing that regularly, and after about 3 weeks, I started feeling better, and I was like, wow, I actually changed my thought process consciously by taking a certain action. Gee, what
Yeah.
else can I change? You know,
Yeah.
what else can I do? I wrote down a bunch of affirmations and I started doing that. And the other thing is gratitude. Uh,
That's so true.
I'd get up in the morning. I had you've heard this story before because you took my course and you've probably heard it. We've said it a few times because I repeat it. But um, when I was depressed, I was listening to music. I was getting back into listening to music because I'd let it go somewhat because I'm a musician. Anyways, there's a
Yeah.
song by a band called Mofro called "The Ballad of Larry Webb," and
Oh
there's a
yeah.
line in that. There's a line in there that it says that he would work from day to night. I'm paraphrasing. He would work from day to night, and in the evening he'd feel his body's pain. But every morning he'd get up and greet the sunshine with a love for all it is. And as like the universe was talking to me or speaking to me when I heard that, it resonated through me. And so I thought, yeah, I'm going to do that. I'm going to get up every morning and be thankful for everything that I have, the good, the bad, the ugly.
Yeah.
And of course, I didn't believe it at first, and I felt kind of silly doing that. And that became my little
Yes.
ritual. But nobody was around. I get up in the morning and open the curtains, and even if it was cloudy out, I knew the sun is still shining behind the clouds, right? So I started doing that, and again, in about 3 weeks, it made a difference. And so I continue to do that. That was over 5 years ago. I continue to do that to this day.
Yeah. Wow.
Um, I continue
And
to
you
do
can
those things.
see, can you see the changes even now? Each, like,
Oh yeah,
as you look back, say a month ago, you're like, oh wow, look at how much it's changed, how it's affected my life in that month. Can you see things like that? Or maybe it's a longer time period.
Absolutely. There's been times where I've kind of slipped out of doing it regularly. Some of the things, there's certain things that I do religiously every day.
Yeah,
Um, but the gratitude, I slipped out of it for a while, and then I started to notice some of the old programming trying to reassert itself.
yeah,
Not everything, but some stuff, and I'm feeling down a little bit here and there. I'm like, wait a minute, I don't feel down. What's going on? And
yeah,
then boom, you get comfortable, um, and and you get up and you want to do whatever it is you need to do for the day, and you get going and stuff. But you got to take that time for yourself
yeah,
and do that, and it recharges your spiritual batteries, I guess, if you will, if you want to call it that.
yeah,
Um, the inner self,
yes,
and just like just like you do exercise for physical, you need to do exercise for the inner and the spiritual side, and that's the big thing that a lot of people miss or don't do.
yeah.
um,
It's if I don't go within, I go without.
that's a good one. Yeah, did you come up with that or did you hear that somewhere?
That's from Conversations with God, actually. It's one of
Oh,
my
okay, yeah.
favorite quotes, and it's something that
Yeah,
I've noticed. If I don't take that time, if I forget in the morning, then later in the day, if I don't take that time to go within, I do go without, and
yeah,
I miss so much.
absolutely. You can tell the difference throughout the day, and then
Yeah.
the day starts winding down, and you go, oh, that's why it's been like that.
Yes. Yeah. I felt that yesterday. Yeah.
I read Neil's books years ago. I haven't read them in a long time, so I don't remember all the
Oh
quotes.
yeah.
But
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I've read it a little bit more recently. It's about a year ago. I think I read the first one. Yeah.
yeah, I probably read them like 10 years ago.
Yeah. Wow. That was 10 years old then. So I wasn't
But
reading
my
them.
wife had not read them, and she read them recently, and so
Yeah.
um, that was kind of cool. And so she
Yeah.
would bring stuff up.
Yeah.
This, but yeah, no, that's a good one. I like that. I'm gonna have to write that one down. That's the other thing too. When you think of something or you want to do something, whatever, speak it and write it down. You'll remember it better.
Yeah.
Um,
Yes.
that
I've
way.
noticed that. I
I
remember hearing you say that actually. And if I have an idea and I can't write it down at that moment, then I just speak it out so that I can remember it later.
Yeah,
Yeah.
because you're putting a vibration out there into the universe, and you're actually taking some action on it, and that helps solidify it into your memory.
Yeah.
Whereas you ever had some thoughts, oh yeah, yeah, but you never wrote them down, and then not more than an hour later, you're like, oh crap, what was I, what was I thinking? That was good. I got to remember that. Or
Yes.
you only
Yeah.
remember part of it, and you don't remember the whole thing. And
Yes.
so, it's we're overcoming a lifetime of mostly negative oriented habits.
Mm.
Um, it
Yeah.
For you, it's good. You're starting younger than I did. I think I was probably in my 30s before I started really uh, looking,
Yeah.
to get positive things and reading a lot of positive, uplifting, motivating books. I think one of the first books I ever read was Napoleon Hill's Think and Grow Rich.
Yeah.
It's
I haven't
still
read it, but I know I, I read little bits of it, and it's amazing.
it's probably the it's he's probably the grandfather of the positive motivational movement, I guess you could say.
Yes.
And that book is timeless. I read it. I probably read that over 10 years ago, and then I read it again maybe I don't know 3 or 4 years ago,
Right.
and I was really amazed at all the things that I missed when I
Yeah.
was younger. Depends on
Yeah.
your
That's
mindset.
interesting.
Because I read it more of, oh yeah, I want to start a business and make a lot of money and da da da, and it's good for that. But then the second time I read it, I went, wow, this is a spiritual book.
Yeah. Yeah.
It
And it's
really,
amazing.
it
You're
really,
a different person when you read it the second time. The
yeah, and
state of
it's
being
all,
that you were coming from.
it's the same thing with all the scriptures too.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. That's
I've
right.
read the world's scriptures, and of course, I come from a Christian background, so I read the Bible a few times, and
Mm.
it's amazing the things that you learn later on that you didn't see. You go, wow, how did I miss that the first time?
Yeah,
But it's all the books, all the good and positive and motivational, uplifting books. I consider them scripture.
yeah,
So
yeah. No, I agree
uh,
with you there. It's we're still
that
writing it, our lives
that yeah,
right now.
that rubs some people the wrong way,
It does.
but that's
Yes.
that's
Yes. But I find that I heard this somewhere and I find it so true. It's that a lot of learning is unlearning. It's when you read the scriptures now or read Napoleon Hill's book now, you've unlearned so much that you can actually learn more. You can learn something
yeah.
new because you've unlearned different things. You've undone stories or the neural pathways which make you think a certain way unconsciously. And so you can actually take in something in a different way.
Yeah. Well, especially at my age, I tell people if I need to learn something new, it's like the hard drive is full. I have to erase some stuff first so that I have room to put in the new stuff.
Yes. Well, even for me, right now, if I want to actually learn something new, I've got to challenge something. I've got to challenge some old belief, some old story,
Yeah,
and actually go, well, does this serve me anymore? Is it actually true? Does it resonate with me now? And look at that and go, oh, actually, it doesn't. Whereas this new thing really changes my life, resonates with me, and takes me where I want to go.
yeah. A big part is being open to new things.
Yeah.
You know, there was a time in my life where I had my mindset and I wasn't that open to other things, even though I thought I was. If you ask anybody if they're open minded, they'll tell you, yeah, oh, of course I'm open minded. But then if you put something to them that challenges their beliefs, they'll just shut that right down, and not even realize that, um,
Yes.
and it took me a long time to become open minded
Yeah.
about things. But and sometimes it takes a crisis too, or
Yeah.
something that really challenges your beliefs, um, to open you up. And there's the universe will send you subtle hints and guide you in certain ways to learn certain things. And if you don't learn, then the hints will get stronger and stronger. And
Mm.
eventually, if you still are stubborn, you'll get a crisis.
Yeah.
Which is
Yeah. It's
you reevaluate everything. And so, and that's what happened to me.
yeah.
And I had a few crises, but I've had one big one in my life, and which kind of scares me sometimes. I'm like, ah, crud, am I going to have another one somewhere here down the road?
I just heard was reminded recently that a guy by the name of Maston Kipp, I don't know if you know who he is.
I haven't heard that.
He he he's like the younger Tony Robbins, I think. I think it's one way of putting what he's like. Yeah, yeah. He he calls them divine storms, and it's. I was just reminded about this the other day that he says this, and it's when you push through the storm instead of diverting, changing your way, having the mind open to change, you will actually reach a bigger storm, and then a bigger storm, and then a bigger storm, until you can't help but change, until the pain of not changing becomes greater than the pain of changing.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. It's Well, there's an old saying by an old sailor saying that the quickest way to get on the other side of the storm is to head directly into it.
Mm,
Because if you try to outrun it, it'll always catch up with you and
yeah,
capsize the boat, so to speak. So turn the boat around, head into the storm, and of course, all your instincts are to run,
yeah,
to avoid the pain, avoid the suffering, and so that's a big challenge for a lot of people, and it was for me, and it still is sometimes to oh man, this is such a going to be such a I wish I could avoid. Oh, okay, wait a minute, but now I know enough to stop myself and say, okay, I need to just head, put your head down and rush right
yeah,
in there to it and
yeah.
get.
You've got to
You know,
face it in that moment.
it still may be painful, but you'll get through it quicker than
Yeah,
if you avoid it. And we often, one of the things that we do, we often avoid stuff because it seems so overwhelming. And sometimes it's not even really that painful of stuff. It just seems like it's just too much. And so we find all kinds of distractions and things to avoid it because we're thinking of it all at once. Whereas it's the old, how do you eat an elephant? One bite at a time.
that's right.
Just
That's right.
one step, one, one foot in front of the other, one step at a time. You know, and I don't. I think everybody has experienced this where you had something that maybe like where you work or uh, it's some project you're working on or some organization you're involved with or what have you, and you're very anxious about having to get up and go do it the next day for whatever reason. You just didn't want to do it, but you had to do it, and you built up this whole thing in your mind about what a pain in the ass it's going to be and
Yeah,
you could avoid it. And then you go and you do it anyways because you have to, especially if it's something that your job requires. Um, and you go, wow, this really wasn't that bad. Why was I so upset about it? And so now I take that, because I've done that many times, and most people have done that at least a few times. And now I try to take that tact whenever something seems to be bothering me that I don't want to do. It's like, okay, wait a minute. What's the worst that could happen?
yeah.
You know?
That's right. Yeah,
And uh, and it's
yeah,
usually, and then when you start thinking about it, go, yeah, well, so if it doesn't work out, so what?
yeah,
We'll try something different, or we'll try a different approach, um, or if it doesn't work out, it doesn't work out. It is what it is, as the saying goes.
yeah.
Um,
Everything's feedback anyway. So yeah,
yeah,
and that's
yeah,
something I found recently. Well, for a long time, I really put off looking at myself, diving into stories I had about myself, and because I knew I had these things of not good enough, and uh, a number of other stories which I have had about myself running my life, and I knew that, and but I put off actually diving into them because was really I made up in my mind, as you were saying, blew up this picture of it's going to be so painful, it's going to be so hard, and sure there might be pain in it, and it might be hard, but it's not as hard as actually putting it off and trying to deal with it later. And so recently I was actually diving into myself and what I was, who I was choosing to be at this moment, and actually finding that why did I put it off? Because as soon as I do it, I start freeing myself up so much more. And it's like, oh man, I can actually start to live a bit, live a bit more in this moment, live a bit more. When I don't put it off, when I actually face the storm, the first storm, instead of finding there's another one there and it's bigger, by putting it off.
yeah. It putting it off always makes it worse and more painful when.
Yeah,
I'll tell you one thing that I'm struggling with a little bit right now, and it's the same situation, is kind of one of my somebody I want to model myself after is Wayne Dyer.
yeah, man.
And
Cool.
for a while, I've been going to look and see how he got his start, and I finally actually did it today. I read up a little Wikipedia biography on him. I'm sure there's a lot more to it, but and
Yeah.
immediately my brain started going because his life experience. Um, he got a few degrees, and I believe he got a PhD. He served in the Navy. He was a school counselor and a psychologist and all this kind of things. And I'm like, how the heck could I, you know, for history? I don't have any of that background as far as
Yeah.
psychology. And so that's the self talk, and so I
Mm.
started talking back to myself, saying, okay, well, why would I need all of that stuff? I mean,
Yeah.
sure, it might give you a little more credibility with some people, but when I look at all the stuff that he has taught and teaches, I know as much or more as he does, and that might sound kind of bold, um, but I haven't read anything from him that I don't know. Put it that way.
Yeah.
I haven't. I mean, I've learned some things from him, from his perspective. I have one of his meditations that I really like, the I am meditation. I think he's the one that started that, if I
Yeah.
remember correctly, and that kind of stuff. So I shouldn't say I haven't learned anything. I should, like that, like the I am thing. I think I learned that from him. Um, but it's all not nothing real new to me, just different twist on things. And so I think I have as much to offer as him, but immediately my monkey mind says, no, you don't. You don't have the PhD and you don't have the degrees and you don't have the life experience that he has. And da da da
Yeah.
da da da.
Yeah.
Okay, shut up and sit down. I'm in charge.
Yeah.
And
And
that's
you
what
tell
people.
yourself a new story. It's the affirmation. No, I am enough to do this. I am good enough. I have the experience required to do this, to be this person, to be the person that I need to be for those that I'm going to help.
And part of that is you know not thinking I have to be as good or just like him. I can share the light that I have
That's right.
to the people who are
That's
interested.
it. Yeah.
You don't have to be perfect to do that. You don't have to have, some special background or what have you. To, and you don't have to be uh, worthy. In fact, I came up with a quote on that. I can't remember it now off the top of my head, but to share your light, you don't have to be perfect to share your light. Some people think they can't share what light they have because you know they made some mistakes or they did this or they did that or they're struggling with something right now. And it's like, so what? Share the light that you have, no matter where you're at. And that'll actually help heal you from whatever struggles you've had in the past or whatever you're struggling with.
Mm.
And well, nobody's perfect. Nobody lives in a vacuum.
Yeah.
And so I'll share a little story that kind of goes back to what you were saying about avoiding stuff and it getting bigger. Uh, I, I had some property up in the mountains and I was building a log home up there. And I made a deal with the landowner because I couldn't afford the whole payment at once, so that I would pay
Yeah.
and half of the payment, and then he would put the rest of that on the back end of the loan. And it was a handshake type deal. Um, and anyways, I I kind of that thing the loan got so big because I kept putting half the payment kept going and adding to it
Yeah.
what I was way more than the property was worth. And so I just kept avoiding it because this is so big. It's like I'm never going to be able to pay this off. I'm probably
Yeah.
going to have to walk on the whole dang thing. And I didn't take care of it until I met my wife Brenda, and she's a real stickler about that kind of stuff, like a lot of women. So, well, how can I approach this? What can I do to fix this somehow? I don't have the money to pay it off, obviously. What am I going to do? Da da da. And and this is a process for solving any problem. And you've probably done this yourself before. Something's really weighing heavy on you, and you're thinking about it all the time. And all of a sudden, you wake up one morning and you have the answer.
Yeah.
Um, That's either from your higher self or sometimes it's the computer brain. But anyways,
Yeah.
as I put my attention and focus on it because it was really gnawing at me, and I had a little pressure from my beautiful wife to get it taken care of.
That's so
And I
cool.
came up with, we're going to go since we had a handshake deal and I'd never been late on a payment. Which the guy had all kinds of problems with other people in the area, because he would do the same type of deal with a lot of different people. Anyways, I went to him and I said, okay, here's what I want you to do. I've paid you this much money so far. Consider that the down payment. I want you to refinance it at the original price, and I'll start paying you the full payments now because I could afford it at the time then.
Yeah.
And so he looked at it and he went, and I don't think he realized how much I'd already paid him anyways. And he considered that, so he's making, I think it was like over 40 grand or something like that. So he's getting 40 grand just basically for nothing. And we're starting
Yeah.
over on back at the original price of the property.
Yeah. Yeah.
He agreed. And so he agreed to it. And it's like a huge weight off of my shoulders that I should have never let it got that big in the first place. But once I attacked it, put my focus on it, the solution came to mind.
Yeah.
And I think my brother made a suggestion to something to that effect, and then a couple other things, and then it all came together. And so, that's just one story
Yeah.
of doing that. So now I try to not put stuff off, especially when it comes to financial things, and just
Yes.
attack it and figure it out. And even sometimes if you got to take a loss, because if you don't and you let it go, it's just going to get bigger and and
Mm.
so that's
Yeah. Yeah, that's right. And the the loss the small loss that you take is, well, it's so much smaller than the big loss of actually you get from just putting it off even further.
yeah, you just sometimes you got to cut your losses and move forward
Yeah.
at saying goes. Um, yeah, it all has to do with self-talk. I've been a penny pincher, survivalist type guy for many years, and so like right now, I have some guns that I'm trying to sell, and I'm reluctant to lower the price on them. um, they're they're kind of there's I built them myself, and they're sort of a special gun, but they're just collecting dust. I never shoot them
Wow.
anymore.
Yeah.
They're expensive to shoot anyways.
Yeah.
They're a lot of fun, but uh, I'm keeping two or three things, but I don't know. I'm keeping a hunting rifle, but I haven't hunted in years, so
Yeah.
it's
Yeah.
like that. And so I'm thinking I'm struggling now with, okay, do I lower the price on these things so that I can move them and cut my losses? So because I probably right now, because the market's really fickle on guns. It depends on who's the president. Like right now, with Trump as the president, gun prices are low because nobody's worried about getting their guns taken away. But when
Yeah. Okay.
Obama was, gun prices shot through the roof. Because everybody was hoarding guns. Because they thought he was going to try and take them away. So
Oh wow.
it's
Okay. There you go.
it's
In Yeah,
it's
it's so
bizarre.
different in Australia.
It's stuff in America, but um, and that's all part of the pictures that people paint in their heads about you know, and nothing's really changed all that much.
Yeah.
Who's the president? So I keep telling
Yes.
people
Yeah, and it's
it
just
has
it's a picture that we paint, isn't it? Like you said,
how
it's
much.
and nothing's actually changed. It's the way we look at it.
You know who Jim Rome is?
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah, he has a speech in there where he's one of his uplifting motivational speeches. I really like him. I listen to him sometimes when I'm driving and stuff. But where he talks about I don't know 4 or 5 different presidents, and he goes, "How much did it affect me? Not much. You know, when so and so was president, Democrat, Republican, blah blah blah, back and forth it goes. Didn't affect me that much.
Yeah.
It's not going to affect me much."
Yeah.
So, but
Yeah, we
people are out there acting like it's going to be the end of the world if so and so gets elected or some legislation gets passed. And so, I think some of it's important to keep track of to a certain degree, but people get so caught up in it that it's like and it's mostly negative too, and so it keeps them in the negative energy stream. And
Mm, yeah,
I know
yeah. I
I
just
used to
saw
be
something. Sorry.
I used to be involved in politics and thinking I was going to help change things, and
Yeah,
so I still have friends involved that try to get me back into it. I'm like, no,
yeah, yeah. That's cool. That's
it doesn't
yeah.
affect my life. What are you going to do if this happens and that happens? Like, oh, I'll deal with it then.
Yeah, and something one of my current mentors was I just saw she was saying I think it was yesterday was that you got to realize that everything is temporary. So you can't base the current moment off the past. And you've
Yeah,
got to understand that even this moment will pass away. It will move on. And so we to get so caught up in our outer reality of which guy's president at the moment, or what happens if he comes in or she comes in, you know, we get so caught up in what's happening around us instead of going, well, it's all temporary anyway. As long as I am being me in this moment and being present to this moment and being present to myself and those around me, it will all work out. As you said, I'll deal with that when that comes. And it's if that comes.
it comes. Yeah,
Yeah, yeah,
yeah. And people paint well, and that's what the media and the politicians do. They paint this picture, and people buy into it. You know that if you don't vote for me, it's the end of the world. And so on. And
yeah, yeah.
I buy into some of that stuff too. And as I look back, I go, how can I be so stupid?
Yes, looking back at some of the way I would think or the choices I made, it's like, what was I even thinking? You know?
And some of my old friends who are still into politics think that I've just completely gone mad. And when I tell them, I think the future's bright, and all this chaos that you guys see is just growing pains.
Yeah,
It's like the gangly teenager that everybody thinks is going straight to hell in a handbasket, and he grows up and finally becomes a decent adult.
yeah, yeah.
So
And there's a lot of unwinding. I think I heard Dr. Joe Dispenza talk about this. Is that a lot of systems have to unwind for the new systems to come in, the new
yeah,
ways of thinking. And really, you've got to understand that if you see an old way of thinking, an old system falling apart, you know that there's something new coming, and we get to be a part of the creation of that new system, that the new way of thinking. I don't want to say system because that's almost set in stone, but the new way of thinking.
yeah. And that's happening. There's a huge movement all over the globe now, which we're a part of. You're a
Yeah,
part of. Um, I'm seeing it everywhere. There's still a lot of people stuck in the old, and so it'll take some time.
yeah,
Um, I think that's a good thing, though. It's I call it some the old ways are crumbling, but it's a slow burn, which is probably good because if everything crumbled too quickly, that leaves a vacuum, and that's the opportunity for some real evil to fill that vacuum.
and a
So
lot of fear comes into that. A lot of fear of the quick collapse comes to that and recreates it,
yeah,
and that's
well,
what.
yeah, and that's that I don't think people realize how much their fear contributes to all of it. Um,
Yeah,
thoughts thoughts are things, and there's thought forms, there's collective thought forms. If enough people, like for instance, I'll just say, if enough people feel like the world's going to end, in calamity of somehow, it probably will eventually.
yeah, yeah,
And so I refuse to contribute to that thought form. I always
yeah.
counter it when I hear it. And usually when I'm doing that, I get looked at like I'm a nut because the only reason I have to counter it is because I'm around people who think that way, for whatever reason. And I used to not say anything, but now I don't care. I don't care what people
Yeah,
think.
yeah,
So I'll throw it out there, and every once in a while, I'll get surprised where a few people go, "Yeah, yeah, I'm with him. Yeah, it doesn't have to end that way." I'm like, "Yeah, you're right, it doesn't." So, You know, that, and
Mm.
I did a thing a few years back where I was looking at natural disasters, like just around America, like down south. Well, and even this year we've had hurricanes. I haven't done it, but when we had the big New Orleans hurricane years ago, and I was looking at what was going on in the politics and in the region, and there was a lot of anxiety and upset about politicians and things that were
Yeah,
going on. And I believe that that affects the weather.
yeah,
People's
yeah,
we live in a sea of emotions, and they actually attracted that kind of weather to them, you know. And so
yeah.
in some circles, people will hear that and go, "Oh man, this guy's really off the deep end."
But I've heard a similar thing. Well, I've been thinking about that. I heard that uh, in Brazil they have a lot of. Now I'm putting this out there. I haven't looked into this enough really to say this, but I'll put it out here. In Brazil, they have a lot of trouble with flooding and I don't know if it's hurricanes as well, but and all their gods are water gods, and it makes me think that there's just a lot of fear based around water that they often end up with more water, more floods, and and more problems because of that. And I honestly think we create and we affect the world around us, the physical world.
Absolutely. Yeah, they don't even realize, people don't realize they're in a vicious cycle that like attracts like. And
Yeah,
so if they're fearing things or negative about things, you know, even people in their lives and wonder why everything seems to be going wrong in their life. And one, you probably know people like this. One thing after another seems to happen to them. You know, the car breaks down,
mm.
they get in an accident, somebody gets sick, or they get a disease, or on and on and on it goes. It's like, my gosh, does this person have just the worst luck, or what?
Yeah. No, I've
And
experienced that
yeah, they do.
myself.
Yeah, I when I was younger, I went through a period like kind of like that too. And now as I look back, now I know what was going on. But at the time, I thought, geez, man, I'm cursed or something. And
Yeah,
it's it's your mindset that is attracted. It's that vibration, and the universe is going, oh, this is what you want. Okay, here you go. You know, I
yeah,
mean that's
yeah.
oversimplification, but they don't realize how to get out of that cycle.
Mm.
And That's what I want to teach. But people, you can't teach somebody who's not ready. And that's the
Yeah,
hard
that's
part.
right. But it's when the student is ready, the master will appear, and it's
And that's what some of those crises do. Some people just get so beat down, they're like, okay, I'll try anything.
yeah,
you know,
that's right. And we've
that's
got
not,
to
not
got to come
necessarily
to
a
the
bad
end
thing.
of ourselves.
Yeah.
Sorry, I missed. I
No,
talked over you. What were you saying?
no, that's okay. I probably talked over you a little bit too, so you're even.
That's right. And one thing that I heard not too long ago, I think it was in the fifth book in the Conversations with God series. Actually, it said, "My way is not the better way; it is merely another way." And that's something I've sort of looked at myself and go, oh, "Okay, cool." Just it's about, as you said earlier, having the open mind. Is Wayne Dyer actually says, have a mind that is open to everything and attached to nothing. And it's being open to the fact that maybe, I don't have it all sorted, but I can teach from my perspective and then learn from others. And it's like the ultimate goal of being the teacher is that your student ends up teaching you. And so
Yeah,
I guess, sorry.
go ahead. I was gonna say I used to teach years and years and years ago. I used to teach Sunday school classes, and I learned a really valid lesson there was that I always learned more than those that I was teaching.
Yeah. Wow.
because I had to do some research and some study, and I think it's the same, in the spiritual aspect. I'm really
Mm.
enjoying the Joe Dispenza stuff. I I have a very analytical mind, and that's good in a lot of ways, but in some ways it's a hindrance.
Yeah.
Um,
Yes.
and so I'm looking forward to uh, getting that greater consciousness, I think he calls it, that into the quantum field where you're seeing, you're expanding in the inner, so you're seeing the outer with new eyes,
Yeah.
so to speak, because you're seeing reality more and more and more.
Yeah.
And because I think there's times when I thought I was getting intuition and I was just using my analytical mind, which is pretty sharp, and so most of the time I could do pretty good with it. But every once in a while, something would go totally opposite. I'm like, what in the heck? I thought this was my higher self telling me what's
Yeah.
wrong here.
I had an experience like that recently. Yeah. Yes.
And the computer brain, your brain is a computer, and it can do pretty well most of the time because it has a lot of information stored in it, or has
Mm.
access to a lot of information. And I think that's why it's important to make that connection. The scriptures call it the kingdom within, the kingdom of God
Mm.
within, as Joe Dispenza calls it, the quantum field, where
Yeah.
just in general, you go within
Yeah.
and make that connection to the divine part of you that is, you know, the real part of you. That's the real you. You're not your body, you're not your emotions, you're not even your thoughts.
Yeah. That's right. Yeah. That's a big thing. Is detaching from the thoughts and actually looking at them and go, oh wow, that's interesting. I'm thinking that, but going, that's not me.
And so I ask myself sometimes when I have certain thoughts, who's talking?
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
who's talking? Is it the real me, or and that I think that's where meditation comes in,
Yeah.
and silence, and that type of thing. I haven't I haven't mastered Joe's walking meditation, but I want to be able to do that at some point too. So
Oh, I haven't looked
but
at that one yet. Yeah.
I haven't mastered meditation, period, but I'm getting better at it though. So,
Mhm. And it
as of
all falls into place though. And it's
yeah,
it's the uh I've forgotten the term, but the few stones really that start the landslide. And it's just the starting of the letting go. Knowing that like even as you say, it's letting go of the analytical mind, knowing detaching from the fact that that the thought that that's me, and going, oh, who's talking right there? That's the start, and that's well, you're already way on the path when you realize that, and then it all falls into place. And trusting the process.
yeah. Another sailing analogy is it's really tough to get a sailboat started moving, even in the wind. But once you
Yeah,
get it going, then it's the wind takes it with it.
yeah,
So, but if you stop out there for some reason, again, it's really tough to get started again. But once you get started, so it's the same thing. So you got to just keep pushing forward. You got to just keep
mm,
moving forward. And the last couple of weeks, I kind of had a rough period where I'm reevaluating everything and not wanting to do the things that I know I need to do and that kind of stuff, which I haven't felt like that in quite a while. And I was wondering, why am I feeling this way? And it's like, well, I take your own advice, Blayne, and do what you're teaching other people to do. Putting one foot in front of the other, keep
yeah,
moving forward, and so things are starting to open up this week again.
yeah,
Feeling better
yeah,
about, and I'm still reevaluating things, but I have a lot to reevaluate. I think I'm going to rewrite my book, or I may write a whole new book. I'm not sure.
yeah. Wow, that's a big step.
I'm going
Yeah.
to probably start a blog first, though. I think
You start what? Sorry.
a blog,
Oh yeah.
a written blog. Can you hear me? Okay.
Yes, I can.
Okay. But
Yeah, it's
anyway,
really exciting, but as I think you said near the beginning, is it can be overwhelming unless you just take it one step at a time, eat the elephant one bite at a time, and just continuing to show up.
yeah. I'm going to show you something. So for my book project, I discovered this from a guy online that can you see that?
Yeah.
You, you don't have to read them, but what it is it's a quick way to get your book out on paper. Anything that comes to mind that you think belongs in the book, you write it down and stick it up there. And
Oh yeah. Well.
I haven't arranged them yet, but then you start arranging them. Okay, this could go in this chapter, and this can go in this chapter. It's a quick way. I I listened to a guy. His name is Pat Flynn, and I came across him before I came across London Real, and he I get he does a podcast and everything, and he's a young guy. You might check him out. He's a pretty cool guy. But he sent I don't know if it was an email or whatever, or maybe I'm subscribed to his YouTube channel, and I saw that thing how to write your book, get your book started and going faster, blah 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 blah. I'm like, oh boy, I need to listen to that, right?
Yeah.
And that's what it was, and he learned it from somebody else too, and he gives them credit too. And I thought, oh, that's genius. And so I just sat down one day and I put it all out there, and I felt so much better. And now I haven't done anything on my book since.
But it's taking those steps, because now you've got the steps, you've got the evidence of the fact that you've taken the steps, and it's trusting the process. It's going to work out, isn't that right?
Yeah, I keep
Uh,
finding distractions and not get back to it though.
I just Someone was asking what was his name. You said Pat Flynn.
Yeah, Pat Flynn. He does the let's see, what's it called? It's called the Smart Passive Income blog and podcast.
Okay, I'll chuck that in the comments for people. What did you say? Smart passive income.
Yeah. I like him. He's a real down to earth guy, not not a hard sell. He has some courses and different things too, but he puts out a lot of value for free, a lot of good stuff.
Yeah.
And
Wow.
he kind of stumbled onto uh, internet business. He was an architect, and uh, he needed to pass some test for architects or whatever. And so in his studies, he would put his notes online so that he could access them anywhere, wherever he was, and so on and so forth. And so um, he put all his notes and he passed the test and everything. And I think he spent like a year putting all these notes up there, so it was like a blog, right?
Oh
Anyways,
yeah.
other people would come to him and ask him about the test, and he would say, "Oh, you can use my notes, right?" And so they started sharing it, and they started sharing it. Pretty soon, he got involved in a mastermind group. So he got fired from his job. So he thought, well, what am I going to do? And so he started looking at different things, and he got involved in a mastermind thing. And he told them about his website where he put all his notes. And they're like, dude, you need to check the traffic out on that. And he checked it out, and he had it like had gone viral, and people were going there using his notes to pass the test. They go, you need to sell it as a course. He's go, why should I? How nobody's going to buy it? They all can have it for free. They're like, just trust me. So he put it into a course, and he made like $7,000 the first week or something. And he said some people bought it already passed the test because they just wanted to pay him back for all the help that he'd given them.
Wow.
Pretty interesting story. And so he started some other businesses from there. But I
Yeah.
thought, wow, wish I could have had that accident too. So
But it's a lot of just putting out stuff for people, giving value first.
yeah, yeah, and that's really the well, he just gave out a bunch of value just to help people out, and it turned into a business for him. So
Mm. Yeah.
there.
Wow. Well, I don't know if you wanted to wrap it up there. It's been an
Yeah,
hour, I think. I,
I don't. Yeah, we're starting to put some people to sleep, or they've dropped off by now.
yeah, I don't know. No, Jenny's still here though. Having said that, it's only 3:15 in Jenny's time, in the afternoon. So,
With us,
sorry, I missed that.
who else was with us?
I don't know who else is here. Oh,
And Jenny and Hannah were
Anthony,
there. Anyways,
and we got a few. Anyway, I gotta say thank you so much, and I haven't spoken to you since London, I think, or very briefly. So good to actually chat with you. I really appreciate it. Every time I chat with you is just amazing.
thanks,
And
and thanks for having me. I
sorry.
enjoy chatting with you. I
Oh,
said
thank
thanks
you.
for having me.
Oh,
I
well,
enjoy
you're welcome. You're
I
very
enjoy
welcome.
chatting with you too.
Thank you. I really appreciate that. It means a lot. So thank you so much, Blayne, and hopefully we'll do another one soon. Hopefully, at least I'll catch up with you soon. Uh,
Yeah,
yeah,
yeah. Maybe I'll do a live next time, and I'll have you on.
yeah,
So,
definitely. I would love to do that. Yeah, thank you
all
so
right, my
much,
friend.
Blayne.
Thanks, Christopher.
Yeah,
Have a
and
good
thank
rest of
you
your
to everyone who watched. I know Anthony's been here for a while, and Jenny, Hannah, Chris, so many. Thank you so much.
Thanks,
And
guys.
yeah, thank you.
Take care.
See everyone.